Liberals' fourth term. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Start with a like and subscription to follow for more and keep up to date. If the Liberals win a fourth term with Carney as leader, several speculative scenarios could unfold based on these connections, though these are informed projections rather than definitive predictions. Political polarization. Carney's outsider status, no prior elected office, and his elite credentials might deepen Canada's political divide. Critics, including those on X, already paint him as a West China puppet, while supporters see him as a savvy fix-it man. A fourth term could amplify this tension, with opposition parties hammering his globalist image, potentially weakening Liberal support if domestic issues like housing or affordability falter under his ambitious reforms. These outcomes hinge on Carney's ability to navigate Canada's domestic needs against his internationalist leanings. His China ties could be a liability if perceived as compromising sovereignty, while his WEF alignment might fuel transformative but contentious policies. Success would depend on balancing these global influences with tangible wins for Canadians. Failure risks validating critics who see him as detached from national interests. Given the current date of April 1st, 2025, and assuming a snap election soon as speculated in some sources, we'd be watching these dynamics play out by late 2025 or early 2026. Key points. It seems likely that Mark Carney's connections to China and the World Economic Forum WEF could influence Liberal policies if they secure a fourth term, though the extent is debated. Research suggests Carney's ties, including a $276 million loan to Brookfield from the Bank of China and meetings with Roman XI Jinping, might lead to cautious engagement with China, balancing trade and security. The evidence leans toward a focus on climate action and global economic integration, given his WEF role potentially pushing for net zero policies and sustainable finance. Controversy exists, with critics accusing him of being influenced by foreign entities, which could shape political opposition and public perception. Here are 5 things you should know about the man who wants to be Prime Minister. Carney wants to change the world. Carney is a dogged crusader for a carbon-free global economy, which he touts as a tremendous source of new jobs. Carney's best-selling book, Values, Building a Better World for All 2021, is a blueprint for putting an end to staggering income inequality, restoring civility to public life, and excising the malignant culture at the heart of financial capitalism. He does not have Canadians' interest at heart. Carney is self-assured and doesn't hide it. In 2011, Carney famously upbraided Jamie Dimon, CEO of US megabank JP Morgan Chase, for resisting stronger regulations on the banks whose collapse brought on the Great Recession. A year later, I experienced Carney's self-certainty firsthand during an interview with him at his Bank of Canada office. No questions, he interrupted me when I interrupted him with an objection. Just listen. Skip ahead to 2011, and Tory MP Pierre Poilievre was grilling Carney at a parliamentary committee hearing on pipeline policy. In a bid to educate Poilievre, Carney said, "I'm trying to explain how a bit of the economy works." Carney takes his motto from the Girl Guides. Be prepared. A theme running through Carney's speeches and interviews over the years is that leaders have to plan for failure in order to protect from it. Carney is a political outsider and insider. Carney has long distanced himself from partisan politics. Yet apart from his 13 years as a Goldman Sachs investment banker, Carney has spent more time working with politicians than most people alive. He has done so as a central banker, as the unspecial envoy on climate change and finance, and as a top economic advisor to Britain's Labour Party and the Trudeau government. Carney is prescient. In the early 2010s, before he took the top post at the Bank of England, where he helped steer a UK economic recovery, Carney was warning Canadian policymakers about impending shortages of affordable housing and skilled labor. He wanted to shift capital from steep housing valuations to greater export prowess and increased business investment. Speculated outcomes for a fourth Liberal term. If the Liberals win the April 28, 2025, given Carney's leadership and the upcoming election on April 28, 2025, several outcomes can be speculated if the Liberals secure a fourth term. These are speculated by gathering information from places such as his campaign platform, past statements, and the political context, including US tariff threats and domestic economic challenges. Summary. If the Liberals win a fourth term, Carney's leadership is likely to blend fiscal discipline with globalist climate and trade policies shaped by his China and WEF connections. While this could strengthen Canada's international position, controversy over foreign influence may challenge domestic support, requiring careful navigation of economic, social, and political landscapes. Strong push for net zero, possibly via a carbon border adjustment mechanism, maintaining industrial carbon taxes while scrapping consumer ones, aligning with WEF goals. Connections and policy implications of Mark Carney's ties to China and WEF. Mark Carney, who assumed leadership of the Liberal Party in March 2025, has notable connections to China through his involvement with Brookfield Asset Management, which obtained a $276 million loan from the Bank of China in November 2024, and his meeting with Chinese President Roman XI Jinping in March 2024. Despite these ties, Carney has publicly expressed a preference for expanding trade with Europe rather than China, particularly in light of trade tensions with the United States. Deepened economic ties with China. Carney's background suggests a potential inclination towards enhancing Canada's economic relations with China, which could involve increasing trade and investment despite existing tensions. This approach may involve utilizing institutions like the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank (AIIB), although some critics have raised concerns about the alignment of these strategies with his climate-focused financial initiatives. However, Carney has emphasized the importance of diversifying trade with like-minded partners such as Europe, indicating that any potential shift towards China would likely be cautious and pragmatic rather than driven by ideology. This could result in policies that seek to balance economic opportunities with national security considerations, potentially leading to debates over foreign influence. Economic policy. Carney's proposed economic policies include fiscal discipline, with promises of tax cuts for the middle class and first-time homebuyers purchasing properties under $1 million, potentially saving up to $50,000. These pledges echo commitments made by the Conservative Party, suggesting a focus on economic growth and affordability. Climate action. Carney is expected to advocate for strong measures to achieve net zero emissions, potentially through the implementation of a carbon border adjustment mechanism. His approach may involve maintaining industrial carbon taxes while eliminating consumer ones, aligning with the goals of the World Economic Forum (WEF). Climate-driven economic overhaul. Given Carney's affiliations with the WEF and his role as an unspecial envoy for climate action and finance, it is likely that he will prioritize policies aimed at achieving net zero emissions. A potential fourth term for the Liberal Party could see the aggressive implementation of green initiatives, including carbon pricing, support for renewable energy, and partnerships with private capital. These efforts may align Canada more closely with the WEF's vision of a Great Reset, emphasizing sustainability over traditional industries like oil and gas, which could generate support from urban progressive voters while potentially alienating regions like Alberta. Trade strategy. Carney is expected to pursue a diversified trade approach, exercising caution in engaging with China and seeking negotiations with the United States to address tariff challenges. His experience in crisis management may inform his trade policies, with a focus on leveraging international forums like the G20 to navigate trade disputes effectively. Social reforms. Carney's proposed social reforms include initiatives to manage immigration and improve housing affordability, addressing key domestic concerns. Western provinces will have civilian referendums and continue to fight for their freedoms, starting with freeing themselves from the eastern provinces and Ottawa. Political challenges. Carney may face opposition attacks related to his ties to China and the WEF, potentially leading to public polarization. Balancing domestic priorities with global commitments could present governance challenges, particularly in navigating controversies surrounding foreign influence. Mark Carney has notable ties to both China and the World Economic Forum (WEF), which provide context for speculating about potential outcomes if the Liberal Party under his leadership secures a fourth term in Canada. Carney, a former governor of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, has been deeply involved in global financial networks. His connections to China include his tenure as chair of Brookfield Asset Management, which reportedly secured a $276 million loan from the Bank of China in November 2024, shortly before he stepped down to pursue the Liberal leadership in January 2025. Additionally, he met with Chinese President Roman XI Jinping in March 2024 alongside other Western business leaders, signaling his engagement with China's economic sphere. Regarding the WEF, Carney has been a prominent figure, serving on its foundation board, its highest governing body, and contributing to its agendas on climate change and sustainable finance, aligning with the forum's vision of global economic restructuring. Background on Mark Carney's connections. Connections to China. Mark Carney, who became the Liberal Party leader and Canada's Prime Minister in March 2025, has notable ties to China through his business and professional activities. As chair of Brookfield Asset Management, his firm secured a $276 million loan from the Bank of China in November 2024, shortly before he stepped down to pursue Liberal leadership. Carney's China ties. This financial link has drawn scrutiny, with conservative leader Pierre Poilievre questioning Carney's impartiality, asking, "What did he offer to China?" Poilievre calls out Carney's China ties after Liberal India claims vertical bar National Post. Additionally, in March 2024, Carney attended a meeting with Chinese President Roman Jinping alongside other Western business leaders, part of China's efforts to bolster trade ties. Mark Carney meets Roman as China woos the West. Despite these connections, Carney has publicly stated a preference for diversifying trade with like-minded partners like Europe, rejecting accusations of being beholden to Beijing. Mark Carney rejects boosting trade ties with China, points to Europe. Reports also link him to the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank (I), a China-led institution, through initiatives like net zero emissions, suggesting deeper economic ties. Carney's Beijing investments, CCP greenwashing, and WEF and IB ties. Connections to the World Economic Forum (WEF). Carney's involvement with the WEF is extensive, having served on its foundation board, the organization's highest governing body, and currently listed as an agenda contributor. Mark Carney, agenda contributor, vertical bar, World Economic Forum. His participation in WEF events, particularly at Davos, has focused on monetary policy, global economic outlook, and climate finance, aligning with the forum's Great Reset vision. World Economic Forum's Mark Carney, a contender to replace Trudeau. As unspecial envoy for climate action and finance, he has advocated for financial sector investments in net zero emissions, emphasizing sustainable development. And with Mark Carney, COP26 climate change finance SR vertical bar, World Economic Forum. His WEF role has also seen him identify as a European citizen in discussions, raising questions about his national identity. Mark Carney identified as European at the World Economic Forum vertical bar, True North. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the video. Thanks for watching. Leave your comment below.